Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Q4 and FY21 results conference call of the Phoenix Mills Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Management of the company is being represented by Mr. Shishir Shrivastava, Managing Director, Mr. Varun Parwal, Deputy CFO, and Mr. Pawan Kakumanu, Deputy CFO. Should you need assistance during this conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star and 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. At this time, I would like to hand over the conference to Mr. Shrivastava. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you. A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope that you are all keeping well and staying safe. We take pleasure in welcoming you all to discuss the operating and financial performance of the fourth quarter and the full year of FY21. We'll first talk about retail. Consumption swiftly recovered from Q3 FY21 onwards on account of increase in mall operational hours across cities, resumption of F&B, and the festive season. Consumption across the retail portfolio was up 5% quarter on quarter to rupees 14.4 billion in Q4 21. Our gross consumption reached approximately 100% of last year's corresponding quarter. Excluding the contribution of Phoenix Palassio, which was launched in July 2020, consumption recovery in Q4 was 90% on a like-to-like basis in Q4 21 versus Q4 20. Consumption across all malls stood at rupees 33.3 billion in FY21 and was at 69% approximate of FY20 on a like-to-like basis. In line with consumption, retail collections continued to witness sharp improvements. Collections further improved 42% quarter on quarter to rupees 3.7 billion in Q4 FY21, taking the total collection to rupees 7.6 billion in FY21. Similar recovery trends were also seen in footfalls and four-wheeler traffic at our malls, where footfall and four-wheelers across all malls were at 83% and 93% respectively of last year's level in Q4 FY21. The commercial office business for FY21, commercial office revenues were at 98% of last year at rupees 1,115 million. Our commercial office portfolio continues to remain resilient. Collection efficiency for commercial portfolio was in excess of 90%. Fountainhead Tower 2, with leasable area of 250,000 square feet approximately, is expected to start contributing to the revenue from July 21. Fountainhead Tower 1 in Pune has a leased occupancy of approximately 95% and is fully operational. Work at Fountainhead Tower 3 in Pune is on course and nearing completion. Art Guild House in Mumbai has a leased occupancy of 76% as of March 2021. To talk about our residential business, we have witnessed strong traction in residential sales, mainly led by the reconfiguration of our Kesaku property into smaller units and the robust demand for ready-to-move-in inventory. We sold and registered agreements for inventory worth rupees 630 million during Q4 FY21 and rupees 1,725 million during FY21. We also recorded additional sales of rupees 325 million during FY21, for which registration is yet to be completed, which will take our cumulative sales figure to rupees 2,050 million during FY21. To talk about our hotels had started witnessing early signs of recovery, led by social events, staycations. However, we expect operating performance to remain subdued in the near term due to lockdowns. We continue to report a positive EBITDA at our property level, led by our steps to bring in cost efficiencies. We have also taken up certain projects to overhaul food and beverage offering and the banquet services at the St. Regis in Mumbai, which we should be able to capitalize on post-COVID recovery. Our confidence is high that social events in the second half of this year will contribute significantly to the recovery. Besides the operational update, I am also pleased to announce the expansion of our partnership with CPP Investments. We are partnering with CPP for development of a retail-led mixed-use project on the recently acquired land parcel in Alipur, Kolkata. Just to recap, our subsidiary Mindstone Mall Developers, 100% subsidiary of Phoenix Mills Limited, had acquired this 7.48-acre land parcel in February 2021. Mindstone intends to develop a retail development of approximately 1 million square feet chargeable area on this land parcel in the first phase. As you may have read in our joint press release, CPP Investments has committed to invest up to rupees 5,600 million in Mindstone. In tranche 1, CPP will bring in rupees 1,800 million for an initial stake of 31.03% on the first closing on a fully diluted basis. Upon receipt of construction approvals, CPPIB will further bring in rupees 2,040 million, taking its aggregate stake in Mindstone Mall Developers to 49% on a fully diluted basis. We are taking a conservative approach for now on leveraging in this development project, and both CPP and PML are committed to additional equity infusion to fund the construction phase as well. Like in our earlier alliance with CPP, Market City Resources, a 100% subsidiary, will see several fee streams from Mindstone, such as property management, leasing fees, and development management fees. Phoenix Mills Limited and CPP Investments are also extending their commitment to the existing joint venture at Bangalore. We have agreed to invest collectively up to rupees 8 billion in our joint venture entity, Island Star Mall Developers, in tranches as required in the ratio of our respective shareholding. The idea is to reduce dependency on construction finance availability in the under development projects. The alliance was formed in 2017 to develop, own and operate retail-led mixed-use developments across India, where Phoenix Market City in Whitefield, Bangalore served as the seed asset for the alliance. In addition to owning and operating Phoenix Market City, Island Star Mall Developers owns and is currently developing under subsidiaries 3 retail-led mixed-use projects at Wakad in Pune, Hebbal in Bangalore, and at Indore. A quick update on our previously announced transaction with the government of Singapore, that is GIC. We are in the final stages of due diligence completion and negotiations, and we expect to announce the closure sometime in this quarter. I will now request our Deputy CFO, Mr. Varun Parwal, to update you on the financial performance of the company. Thank you.
Thank you, Shishir. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on this call. Continuing with the briefing which Shishir gave, I would like to share with you some of the key highlights of our consolidated financial performance. Our income from operations for FY21 stood at rupees 10,733 million. This is at 55% of FY20. FY21 EBITDA was at rupees 4,942 million, which was at 51% of FY20, and we reported a profit after tax of rupees 526 million. Income from operations for quarter 4 FY21 was rupees 3,858 million. This was at 97% of quarter 4 FY20. Our EBITDA for Q4 FY21 stood at rupees 1,734 million, which is at 85% of quarter 4 FY20. For the quarter, we reported a profit after tax of rupees 655 million. Now, moving on to our operational performance of our various business streams. Our retail rental income for the full year came in at 5,632 million. This number is at 55% of FY20 number. And, earlier last year in June, we had guided, our initial guidance was for rentals to be at 45 to 50% of FY20 levels. We are very pleased to have ended the year at a number higher than our initial estimates. Our FY21 retail EBITDA was at about 5,231 million. This was at 54% of FY20. Now, coming to a quick update on our cash flows. Our inflows net of GST for the year was at about 1,400 crores. Retail contributed to about 7,700 million in FY21. Commercial was at about 1,400 million. Residential cash flows were at about 1,370 million, while hotels were at approximately 630 million. We had significant amounts in terms of IT refunds during the year, which was at about 830 million for the full year. And we also had earlier announced a receipt of the settlement from Kalani's, which was at about 390 million. Our operational expenses for the year were at about 7,860 million, and our interest expense was at about 3,050 million for the full year. Overall, we had an operational free cash flow of approximately 3,000 million for FY21. This is before capex and principal repayment. For FY21, our capex for the year was 3,460 million, and in quarter 4 this number was at about 1,073 million. We have also completed principal repayments of 3,530 million during FY21. As you would have seen in our presentation, our consolidated debt was at approximately 345 billion as on 31st March. And there was a very modest increase compared to where we were at the end of quarter 3 FY21. Adjusted for Phoenix share of debt and the cash that we have on books at a standalone entity level, we are net debt positive, and at a consolidated level, our net debt stands at about 27,000 million. We have been working diligently to reduce our cost of borrowing. For the full year FY21, our average cost of borrowing is down 102 basis points, and during quarter 4, our cost of borrowing came down by a further 29 basis points. We ended quarter 4 at a rate of 8.17%, and we expect this number to continue trending down as we have a few more refinances that we are working on during quarter 1 and quarter 2. With this, I would like to close our opening remarks and open the call for the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Kunal Lakhani from CLSA. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon. Just wanted to understand what is the utilization of the infusion of 384 crores in Kolkata SPV, because I'm trying to understand the land is paid for and the construction would largely be funded by debt. So, like, do you plan to acquire new projects in this SPV or? Just want to understand the utilization.
No, thank you for your question. We have paid approximately 310 crore or thereabouts plus stamp duty for the land acquisition. The way we have structured this transaction is that Phoenix Mills Limited will receive about 150 crore back from this SPV once the infusion comes in from CPP. The balance funds will be utilized towards construction. As I had mentioned, we are keen to fund a significant part of construction through our equity infusion itself and not be highly dependent on construction finance. And if we choose to draw down construction finance, it will only be towards the later stage of construction at this asset.
Okay, sure. Just also wanted to understand, why put this separately? Because essentially, after the fund infusion in both the earlier CPPIB JV, the Island Star JV, and the Kolkata JV, essentially the stakes would be very similar. So why not, put Kolkata under the same Island Star JV?
Well, Phoenix acquired Calcutta under an SPV, and we've decided to, and CPP has come and invested in that entity directly. It's not quite efficient to create multiple layers by moving this particular SPV under Island Star and fund Island Star. So there is no change in the commercial terms nor in the management of this JV as opposed to the ISML JV. There is not any material difference there. Okay,
sure. And secondly, Shishir, we have liquidity of about 1,000 odd crores currently, and then this 800 crore infusion in Island Star, and this again another infusion in Kolkata SPV, and then the GIC platform would add anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 odd crores. A few years back we had the target of doubling our retail footprint. But with this kind of liquidity, what is our vision, or say the target for the next 5 to 7 years?
We stay focused on what we have, stated as our objective. We had stated that by FY 23-24, we will have an operational retail GLA of about 12 million square feet and commercial office GLA of about 6 odd million square feet. So we are well on track to achieve that. We had also stated that beyond FY 24, we want to continue to deliver 1 million square feet of retail GLA every year. So Calcutta forms the first million that will probably become operational in FY 25 or thereabouts. So we are well on track to deliver our stated goal, and this liquidity is only firepower to achieve that, and also to ensure that our projects under development continue to stay funded and on track.
But wouldn't our existing project that we have acquired so far, including the Kolkata projects, will get us to these numbers? So I'm just trying to understand this liquidity. I mean, essentially, it will not, all of it will not go towards funding the construction cost. Considering cost of equity is a lot more expensive than the cost of borrowing here. So I'm just trying to understand where will this? I'm assuming bulk of this equity infusion should ideally go towards new project acquisitions.
You're absolutely right. We have a fairly sizable project at Lower Parel, which we have discussed in the past with investors as well, which is called Phoenix Rise, and this gives us the firepower to undertake that development and proceed with paying the premiums and getting the plans approved. So the money is already, the liquidity that we have at Phoenix at the consolidated level as well is already earmarked for growth capital, and some of it, of course, is going to be deployed towards ongoing projects as well.
Sure, thanks. And last one from my side, just can you update on the rent negotiations that you are currently doing with the retailers? Anticipating there'll be some easing from 1st of June onwards in some states at least.
So, like we did last year, we have taken the decision not to, at a stage when the mall is not operating and stores are not operating, it's not the correct time for us to engage with retailers in a negotiation when there's uncertainty. I think we will follow the same approach as we did last year. When there is visibility of each mall opening up, that's the point in time when the stores start commence trading. That's the time to get into a commercial negotiation and arrive at an understanding. This time around, of course, things are, while I would say that the impact of the second wave has been huge, the circumstances are different. I think there is a high level of confidence with consumption bouncing back and us having seen that already in the last quarter of FY21. So I think retailers and ourselves are more confident about the bounce back, and we'll be able to arrive at a mutually acceptable commercial negotiation.
Sure. And lastly, just a data point, what will be our monthly cash burn currently?
Across entities?
Consolidated level.
Kunal, Varun this side. I think at this point in time, given the strong cash flows that we had from our retail in quarter 4, we were actually net cash positive.
That's end of March, right? I mean, I'm asking in terms of April and May, like what would be our cash burn currently?
It's roughly around, if we just look at each asset, it would be somewhere between 2 to 2.5 crore per mall per month would be the operating expense outflow.
Great. That's very helpful. Thanks a lot and all the best.
And just to further expand on that, it's about 25 to 30% of normal operating expense during operations.
Great. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question, may press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Puneet from HSBC. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much and good afternoon. My first question is if you can help me understand this Calcutta deal a little better. So you invested 310 crores initially, and then CPPIB enters into partnership. They commit to invest 560 crores. What is this 384 crores? Is it the first level investment, or how should we think of this number?
So yes, I will break this 560 into 3 parts. 180 is what comes in tranche 1.
Okay.
Tranche 2 will roughly be about 204, which will come in. This is going to be, so tranche 2 comes in upon receipt of all approvals, etc. And so total of 384. This will take them up to a 49% stake.
Yeah.
And subsequent to that, as and when if in the event we need further funding for construction, then that's the point in time when they will bring in the balance, taking it up to a 560 number.
Okay, got it. So for the 49% stake, they're paying 384. That's the way to read this.
That's correct.
Okay. Got it. And what would be the expected cost for completion?
The total estimated cost is about 926 crore, which includes land, FSI, premiums, construction approval costs, construction cost itself, management, construction management, site operating, everything. Cumulatively will be about 925, 930 crore.
Okay. Got it. Secondly, can you also talk a bit about, how did your Lucknow mall do in the last, 2 quarters? What kind of traction are you seeing, and where are we on the, entire leasing cycle there?
Sure. Lucknow has in fact has really performed extremely well. As you are aware, it became operational only in July of 2020.
Yeah.
I would say that the quarters of Jan, Feb, March have been fantastic. We've seen about roughly around 135 crore of consumption in Q4 of FY21, and trading density inching closer to 1,000 rupees a square foot, which is, as you may be aware, in this same period, our other operating malls, which are much older, mature assets, they were in the range of about 1,400 rupees of trading density. So it's fast catching up. Trading occupancy is in Q4 stood at about 75%, and that of course has improved since then. And so we have about 189 brands that are operational, another 25 odd at various stages of fit out. So it's performed extremely well.
Okay. So is it fair to say that 25% of the area is still to be leased out at this point of time?
No, I said trading occupancy is at 75, which means that these are the number of stores that are operational.
Okay.
We would be at a leased occupancy of, I would say, close to about 80% now.
Okay. So that's really out there. That's it. My third question is on the some sale of assets from the standalone to the JVs for some 24 crores. Is that all that you paid for the office, or is there any more number that you need to pay?
Can you repeat the question, Puneet?
The standalone entity used to own some units in AGH and Centrum. Those were sold to the subsidiaries for 24 crore. Is that the entire amount that's been paid there?
So Phoenix, if I understand your question correctly, and I apologize because the line is not very clear, is your question pertaining to the commercial office units that PML owned, which we have transferred back to off-lease developers?
Correct.
Sorry, can you just repeat what was your question on the commercial? I didn't quite hear that, Puneet.
Yes. So I think the notes to account, mention some 247 crores being from sale of assets. If you can, give some more light there. What all is included, and will you need to, or will the subsidiaries need to pay more for that?
Correct. So it's about 200 no, the subsidiary doesn't need to pay anything more than that. The total value of transfer of units in Kurla alone was about 227 plus 115. Yeah, about 341 crore or thereabouts is the total value at which these units have been transferred back to the SPV.
Okay. And 247 crore is the profit recognized on these.
Sorry, may I just clarify? It was my error. It's roughly about 310 crore, 195 plus 115.
Okay. And 247 crore is just the profit which is being recognized on that.
Profit being recognized on this will roughly be about 85 crore. I'm not too sure what is this number that you are referring to.
So it's notes to account point number 5 for standalone financials.
Just give me one moment and we'll give you the breakup.
Sure.
I'm requesting Pawan to give the detailed breakup on this.
Okay.
Hi Puneet, Pawan here.
Yeah.
So Puneet, this transaction was carried out in the third quarter, where units which were owned by PML in our Kurla office property Centrum and AGH were sold to the SPV ODPL. The total consideration that the SPV paid was in the tune of 310 to 330 crores, and the profits which were recorded on that was the 247 crores that you are looking at. But from income tax perspective, the taxation is not on 247 crores because of course these were all legacy units and there is a indexation which will be available to the same.
Right. And there is nothing more that SPVs need to pay, right? So that
this is fully paid. This is fully paid, and the registration and transfer is also complete. My apologies. One slight correction. The consideration has been finalized and fixed, and the registration is complete. However, as part of certain transactions, etc., which is going to take place, the transfer of funds will happen in due course. Okay,
so
but the transfer of units was effective from 1st January 2021.
Okay, got it. Understood. My next question, Shishir, is more on slightly on the strategy side, right? So you bought land and you monetized immediately. Should we think it's more of a de-risking strategy rather than a asset monetization strategy?
At this stage, I would say it does look like a de-risking strategy. However, this Calcutta acquisition has been underway well before COVID, and we concluded the acquisition only in January this year.
Right.
But even prior to COVID, we were looking at bringing in a partner at that point in time, who would come in as a financial investor and participate in that asset. I would say to a small extent, it was driven by the idea of de-risking this project,
right,
in terms of equity funding, but also it was to monetize at an early stage in a new geography where we'll be able to bring in a partner who also brings a lot of expertise and experience to the development.
Got it. That's all from my side. Thank you so much and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Biplav D from Antique Stock Broking. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. My first question is on the pipeline deals that you have at this stage. If you could provide, sir, some insight on the pipeline transaction. The context is, sir, so post GIC, you will have approximately cash surplus of around 3,500 crore or so. Just wanted to understand whether you have some kind of target in your mind, deployment schedule, like how many projects you want to acquire in the next 2 years, 3 years, some ballpark target. So, and what stages of those the pipeline deals are at? What stages of transaction? Thank you. This is my first question.
Thank you. So the idea of creating this cash at the console level is to look at growth opportunities and to plow back some funds as and when required in projects which are currently under development. We have in pipeline, of course, we have this possibly one of Mumbai's best commercial center coming up at our flagship property in Lower Parel, which is a sizable project of roughly about 1.2 million square feet of FAR. And so that's something that we have clearly on the anvil, and we will update once we embark on the project. After we get approvals, we'll update everyone on that. We are looking at a few acquisition opportunities. These would be under the potential JV that once we form it with GIC, and also otherwise. So I would say that for the moment we would have a visibility, or we have the ability to deploy about 1,000 crore in the Lower Parel project, expand the new project Rise, and then we will share with you as we look at as we crystallize any further acquisitions.
Okay, sir. Sir, just Lower Parel would be mixed, right? Retail plus commercial. That's what I recall.
That's right. That's
okay. Sir, my second question is on your strategy. We have been seeing for the past 2-3 quarters, residential sector has been showing strong performance across the market, and you also have some business in residential in one Bangalore West and Kasaragod. So just trying to understand whether any change in business strategy as everybody is projecting a residential growth momentum in the next few years, and how does Phoenix have any intention to go aggressive in residential, such as say one example could be immediately launching new towers or acquiring new projects for residential. Anything on residential, or you are content with executing the existing?
Yeah, at present, our strategy continues to remain to be focused on expanding retail and commercial office vertical. You are right. We are seeing very strong traction in residential in our project in Bangalore, but for the present, we are not looking at expansion in that vertical.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. I'll come back in the queue.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Akhil Tiwari from Citigroup. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot. So just two questions. So on your retail rental income for FY22, would it be possible to share any broad idea how much of, say, FY21 or FY20, what percentage of that we could do in FY22? Like last year, you had broadly guided that it should be half. And I know things are uncertain and malls are yet to open, but broadly speaking, could it be like 80-90% of normal run rate or lower than? Rough comment on that.
See, I think I would hesitate to comment on what will be the impact for the period of lockdown, because that is something which we will only discuss with retailers once we reopen the malls. But if we simply look at the consumption trajectory that we saw in the last quarter of FY21, I would like to believe that once our malls reopen within, say, 40 days, we should start hitting the consumption trajectory of FY20. And really that is the proof of the pudding. And that will result in us going back to stabilized rentals of FY20 with perhaps some escalations in a few cases.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful. And so my last question is again on this Kolkata JV with the CPPIB. So this is different from what we had in the case of Island Star Mall developers, because there, if I remember correctly, there was a largish amount committed, and the understanding was that SPV will kind of find opportunities in future to deploy that money. Until the time that money is not deployed, any new project will be first presented to that SPV, and then only parent company can do it. But here it looks like it is just limited to one project, right? There is no such other arrangement to look for new opportunities.
You're absolutely right. One can simply look at this as a further acquisition in that joint venture itself. Okay. And that's it. It's just structured as a separate entity, so we don't have multiple layers which become very inefficient going forward.
Okay. So under this SPV, there is no commitment to deploy more money and look for other land parcels and so on.
Yes, okay. This transaction is limited to this specific development. I mean, of course, at a larger level, our partnership with CPPIB continues to grow.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, one who wishes to ask a question may press star and one now. The next question is from the line of Mohit Agrawal from IIFL Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. My first question is, over the last 1 year, what has been, as it stands today, what is your lease occupancy and trading occupancy on a blended basis? So what kind of churn have you seen in tenants over the past 1 year since the first wave started? And which kind of tenants have actually moved out? The second part of that question also is that how do you look at in the next 6 months as uncertainty remains? Do you see a significant churn in the next few months, and what have been the discussions with the tenants on that?
I would say that the last year saw perhaps across locations anywhere between 4 to 5% on the higher side, 4 to 5% change in our leased occupancy. And most of this, a bulk of this was in the F&B category. As of now, since malls in Maharashtra shut down in April, we have not really seen any vacancy being, increase in vacancy. And again, when it comes to food and beverage, we believe that sector is largely driven by entrepreneurs and by talent. So even vacancies that we see today, once we see demand pick up, there will be, I think, F&B brands will be back. There may be newer concepts, other operators, but the space will get taken up by F&B as soon as consumption trends start improving.
Sure. So the expiries which are going to happen in the first half, let's say, or in the first quarter of fiscal 22, will they also be extended or will they be renegotiated?
So by and large, whatever expiry we were likely to see in the first half of FY22, these were already negotiated in the last year, in the last financial year, and concluded. In some cases, we have simply extended the current, the last paid rentals for a period of 12 months, and then the escalations would kick in thereafter. So it's a combination of different negotiations that we have done across the brands that were likely to see end of tenure of their contract in the first half of this year.
Okay, that's helpful. My second question is, just a clarification on the initial comment that you made about the Bangalore mall where you have extended your partnership with CPPIB for 800 crores. Now, I wanted to understand, is it for the 3 malls that you are developing? Is it, you are making more funds available for that? Or are you open to look at probably even, buying a new mall, because I think 800 crores is good enough for doing that. So just wanted that clarification.
Yeah. So under that JV, we have these 3 developments. These are not just malls, but mixed-use developments. At Wakad at Pune, we have 1 million square foot mall plus another 1 million square foot potential of offices. At Hebbal, Bangalore, it's similar, 1 million square foot mall plus little over 1 million square feet of commercial offices. And of course, Indore, for the moment, we are only completing the mall. But in Island Star, which is the operational asset, Phoenix Market City, Bangalore, we also have a further development potential of roughly about 1.5 million square feet, comprising retail and commercial offices. The reason why we deliberated and agreed to bring in 400 crore now, cumulatively 400 crore now, and 400 crore in the future if required, is to go ahead and make sure that all of these projects get completed without dependency on construction finance, because construction finance terms, etc., are not to our liking today. And so we have the option of going for construction finance if should we like the terms, and then, but we are committed to bringing in up to 800 crore cumulatively should it be required. 400 is already being under process as of now, and the second tranche we will decide as and when we see construction finance availability.
Okay, sure. That's all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Parikshit Kandpal from HDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, Shishir.
Hi.
So this, again on this 800 crores, my question was, so earlier it used to be funding of 1/3 equity and 2/3 debt. So with that moving now to 50%, almost 50-50 or slightly higher. The first thing is that for a developer with such a strong balance sheet, so you can bring in that money and it gives us competitive advantage. But my second question would be that, added to that would be that, so what was the total these 3 malls pending capex, and whether this 800 entirely because of this mix change going towards higher equity requirements?
So I would say that, just give me one moment to respond to that. So cumulatively, if we look at the CPPIB JV with the 3 projects in Pune, Hebbal and Indore, I think we have about close to about 1,700 crore balance to be spent.
Okay.
We have not drawn down any construction finance across any of these locations as of now. So the idea is that we will defer or back end the debt requirement as far as possible.
Okay. So if you put this entire 800 in equity, so what will be after completion of these assets? So what will be debt equity then? Makes total capital.
So we've spent about 1,800 crore of as on date. I would say as on end of FY21, we've spent 1,800 and we have about 1,600 balance. So this 1,800 has been all equity. Another 800, if we do end up putting, it will take up our total equity infusion to about 2,600. That will leave 800 of construction finance drawn down in the last stages, which will get refinanced by an LRD as soon as these assets become operational.
Okay.
But that, I would say, is the worst case scenario. In the event we do not like the terms of construction finance presented and we end up bringing in the additional 400 crore. Otherwise, so I would say between 2,200 to 2,400 will be the total equity infusion in these assets.
Isn't it a very inefficient way of capital allocation, because the cost of equity is much higher than cost of debt, and even for a company like yours, I mean, you can easily get anywhere about 45 to 50% of debt, even in current times when most of the other developers are struggling, even financially close the project, but with such a strong balance sheet, with just 23% of debt and about 74%.
I think we've always followed a very prudent capital allocation. It's very important to understand that, the stage when under development projects see stress is when you over leverage and your monthly outflow starts ballooning, right? Which is why I said that we are not saying that we are going to fund these projects entirely out of equity. It is a backup plan to ensure that in the event construction finance is not available and not available at our preferred terms, we have the firepower to continue funding these projects and see them through. You can see historically we have been very, very, I would say, efficient in leveraging all of our annuity generating assets at the right appropriate time by way of LRDs. So we continue to maintain a fine balance of leveraging. Our preference is to back end construction finance. And more so in the current environment where construction finance terms are not really, I would say that banks have taken a very conservative view.
So to just understand it better, so whatever excess cash you are having right now lying as idle cash, where you are not earning more than maybe 4%, 5% yield, so you extend this as loans and advances, because you may get a slightly better yield to get a little better spread on that. So I would assume that this will not go entirely as pure equity, so there will be a mix of loans and advances and some equity, a small portion of equity, right?
Correct. It may go as loans and advances to the subsidiaries from ISML.
It helps you earn a better yield on your cash which is lying idle. So and maybe at a lower cost versus a banking finance. So that is what you're targeting to. So I got it now. Okay. So my second question is on the under construction assets. So how's the lease momentum? Have you started opening up those areas for leasing? And what kind of momentum are you seeing there from the tenants? If you can just give some perspective over there on the under construction assets, and approximately at what level of lease would these assets be approximately ballpark?
I would say that we had commenced leasing and then we put it on hold because of the environment. In this last month of lockdown, we've taken the opportunity to really initiate discussions with several of the brands, and I think the response that we are getting is very fantastic. I would hesitate to comment on how much we have leased each of these projects because as a strategy we had kept that on pause. But we are seeing a lot of traction, or rather we are seeing a lot of interest by retailers to expand into these city center locations that we are developing.
Okay. And just the last question, now the Kolkata is done. So now, in addition of business development, so obviously there are platforms. So besides that, we spoke about the Lower Parel property. So is there anything else in any new market, any new location any brownfield expansion where you are in advanced stages? If you can give some color on what kind of opportunities lies in the market, that will be helpful.
So there are certain, as we've always mentioned in the past, there are certain micro markets which are of significant interest to us, and we will continue to look for opportunities there. Kolkata was one which is now done. Hyderabad is another one where we would be very keen to look at a flag there. And then of course, we believe that there is a lot of potential in Delhi and Gurgaon, so we'll continue to look for opportunities there. Chandigarh perhaps. So there are quite a few cities where we continue to look for opportunities.
Okay. Just lastly, one thing I noticed.
To round that off, our focus remains to complete the projects that we have underway as of now, and we are certainly not deviating our focus from that. Also, I just want to give you a quick, I think we had last reported that Ahmedabad Mall, Palladium Ahmedabad was roughly at around 40% pre-leased. We've exceeded that. We are at about 50% now, and Hebbal Bangalore is now above 30% pre-leased.
Above?
30.
Okay, Hebbal Bangalore. Okay. And the Pune one?
Pune one, we have just last month started the marketing of that project.
And Indore?
Indore as well. Indore, I would say that about 65% pre-leased as of now. So we had kept
65.
65, yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that we had kept on pause, and we've just again kicked that off again, the marketing there.
Okay. Just lastly, I saw that in Chennai there has been the consumption a little bit underwhelming. So why is the reason why it's still not picking up there? It has not picked up in the fourth quarter. Late in Chennai.
Yeah. Well, actually, Chennai malls also opened later than other parts of the country. So I would say that they were trailing behind Chennai was trailing behind by about 2 months in terms of catch up on consumption. Other cities, our malls commenced operations. In Maharashtra, we commenced operations in August, and Chennai was September sometime.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Shishir. That's all from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pulkit Patni from Goldman Sachs. Please go ahead.
Sure. Thanks for taking my questions. Shishir, my first question is on Project Rise. Is it just going to be retail, or we plan to do some commercial also?
It's going to be a mixed-use development, so it will comprise retail and commercial. We are evaluating multiple design options, but the retail could be anywhere between 2 lakh to 3.5 lakh, and commercial office could be anywhere between $1 million to 1.2 million.
I thought the total was 1.2 million there.
No, I'm talking about gross leasable area.
Okay. So that's helpful. And you spoke about a number of about 1,000 crore as the total capex there.
That's not exactly correct. I had said that about 1,000 crore of further expenses could be incurred over there, over and above the cost of land transfer. So the total project cost will certainly be a little higher than that.
Sure.
About 1,150 crore, 1,200 crore would be roughly the overall project cost.
Okay. Thanks. And secondly, since we're going through the second wave, any thoughts on how the future of rental is likely to shape up? Do you see that revenue share now in rental agreements is going to be a lot higher? Any thoughts on how we should look at this for the next few years, or you think it's going to remain status quo the way it has been?
Pulkit, hi, this is Pawan. Pulkit, I think one thing that we have seen even during our negotiations during last year was that while there were certain leeway that was provided on the minimum guarantee rentals, there was percentage increase in the revenue share, which actually ended up overall by the end of the year, you saw the numbers, how we were able to get about 55% of what otherwise we would have contractually gone. What also happened in addition to it is because of the collaborative approach that we have with the retailers, the retailers agreed that the increase in the revenue share percentage would continue for a particular time, and it was to continue even in FY22 had not for the lockdown again being reimposed. So I think overall in a 3-year time frame, as we come back to normalcy, in a 3-year period, as a combination of higher revenue share percentages, etc., we should be able to get a good traction. However, we think that this current trend is to ensure that these testing times and the financial impact of these testing times are taken care of. Overall, we'll get back to where we were originally. On a final note, given the strong consumption traction that all of our centers have, a lot of these retailers were anyway hitting revenue share. So getting a higher revenue share percentage as soon as normalcy returns is actually turning out to be a faster way for us to get back to our intended absolute number of rentals. Does that answer your question, Pulkit?
That answers. So effectively, we can understand that this could just be an interim thing for maybe a year, 2 years, and then it reverts back to the normalcy.
Absolutely.
Sure. And just a related question, if I may, can you highlight any change in terms with the multiplexes, and how should we look at that part of the rental?
So, as was stated by Shishir earlier, at this point in time, we would hesitate to comment upon how the negotiation might pan out with any of these retailers with the malls being shut. Even last year, we started conversations with a variety of tenant categories, only as such tenant categories started opening. So we'll wait for them to resume operations and then figure this out as we would go.
Thank you. We would request the current participants to please come back in the question queue. The next question is from the line of Manish Agarwal from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. My first question would be pertaining to the new malls. So you indicated the pre-leasing number. If you could just indicate the rental at which the pre-leasing is happening across these malls.
We are expecting at Hebbal to achieve a weighted average rental once we've leased it out to be in the region of about 160 to 165 rupees. At Wakad, Pune, we expect our average to be roughly around 120 or thereabouts. And at Indore, we are going to be at about 90, close to about 90 rupees average rental.
And Ahmedabad?
Ahmedabad is going to be about close to about 150 to 155 weighted average.
Okay. And secondly, towards the end of FY20, you had indicated that there is certain amount of repricing opportunity, which obviously couldn't come through in FY21. So post, say, FY22-23, do you expect this repricing opportunity in your main malls to come through?
Absolutely. As we see our contracts coming to an end, we've also seen it in several cases in FY21, in FY22. We've also seen in several cases where we negotiated the renewal contracts in FY21. For FY22, we have seen an escalation, and in some cases, while we may not have seen an escalation in FY22, there's a catch up in FY23 and FY24 thereafter.
So the base which we are looking is FY20 rentals only, so it's not gone down as such.
No.
There will be a catch up in later years.
Yes.
Sure. Thank you. That's all from my side.
You should look at it like this, that FY20 has not gone down. What would have been an escalation or an incremental rental coming in FY21, that has got pushed to FY22, but FY22, FY23 also additionally have a catch-up concept.
Sure. Understood. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Amit Agarwal from Nirmal Bang. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity. I know you have a very small, as of now, compared to your retail portfolio, you have a very small office portfolio. But any comments on what we're seeing, the pressure on the rentals and occupancy? occupancy on the office portfolio. Are you also facing the same thing?
Sorry, may I request you to repeat your question again?
My question basically pertains to the office portfolio. I do know it's a pretty small percentage of something, comparative compared to the retail. But what we've seen in other companies is that, office portfolio right now is under pressure for last year or so because of COVID. So are you also feeling the same pressure in office portfolio in terms of rental and occupancies going off right now?
So it's a very good question. I want to answer it in multiple parts. One is, our current operational portfolio in the office space is roughly around 1.5 million square feet. And we have about 5 million square feet under development, right? So it's important to also understand that these are not standalone office buildings. These all form part of our mixed-use developments and form part of our subsequent phases of development. With the exception, of course, of Phoenix Rise, which is the ground-up development at Lower Parel. In our current operating office portfolio of about 1.5, 1.6 million square feet, we've really not seen a disruption in rentals in this last year, right? In fact, I would say that it has been our office portfolio that has actually kept the cash flow coming in, and we even in this period of lockdown, we've seen collections to be quite strong there. Q4 collections were in close to about 95-96%, and so it's for us, the office business has not seen a negative impact. The reason is these are not back offices, these are not IT offices, these are all city center corporate offices for several tenants and several reputed international brands as well. Going forward, while there may be, let's say that there may be an impact, we believe the impact will be more in ITES spaces and lesser in commercial front office spaces.
Sure. Thanks a lot. That was all from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was the last question. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Srivastava for closing comments.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. And do feel free to reach out to our teams for any further questions, queries, clarifications that you may need. And wish you all the very best. Please stay safe and look forward to connecting with you in the next quarter call. Thank you. Have a pleasant day and a great weekend. Bye.
Thank you. On behalf of the Phoenix Mills Limited, concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your line.